Yo, what's up bros? My name is Rory Lucas. Welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be reviewing the latest release from developers Naughty Dog, The Last of Us Part 2 for PlayStation 4. The Last of Us Part 2 comes sequel to one of the most loved games and stories in gaming history. The Last of Us was released in 2013 for PlayStation 3 and instantly adored by fans. They have been eagerly awaiting a sequel ever since, so understandably expectations have been extremely high for this sequel. Like any game with high expectations, some people have been left feeling very disappointed, and I'm going into this video knowing that not everybody is going to agree with me and some people are going to aggressively disagree with me. That's totally fine. If you feel that way, please leave a comment down below with your reasoning. I would love to hear from you. I'm going to be approaching this review very objectively, and I have identified some key review points that I want to cover in this video. They are as follows. We have story delivery, gameplay, graphics, options and features, level design, replayability, and value for money. I will be assigning each of these a score out of 5, and then we'll be taking the average as our overall score for the game. In this case, I will be assigning a little bit of a swing value in regards to the story, as whether you like or dislike the story will proportionately affect your experience with the game. There will be a bit of plus or minus involved. With that said, we're just going to dive straight into the action with the story. Now, this is a spoiler-free review, so I will not be discussing any specific things regarding the story in this video. However, if that is something you're interested in, I will be making a video in future talking about this topic in much greater depth, including spoilers, so keep an eye out for that. Naughty Dog definitely took some controversial and bold decisions in narrative choice and character development for this game. That has led to the story in The Last of Us Part 2 becoming one of the most divisive talking points in gaming to date. People love it or they hate it. There doesn't seem to be an in-between. I am personally in the love it camp. I've actually put it within the top 10 games that I have ever played story-wise. I thought it was extremely well written. It invoked emotions within me that almost any other game has never managed to do. I felt angry, sad, happiness, sometimes a crazy weird mix of all of those at once. It was an experience, an emotional roller coaster, and that's ultimately what you want from a Naughty Dog game, and I feel that it's fair to say that it definitely does fit in with the Last of Us series. I'm going to rate it at a 4-star. I know people are going to disagree with this. I'm already dodging things being thrown at me right now. But I'm going to put a swing value of 1 star either side of that, so my rating is 4 stars. We will just move into the story delivery. The story delivery in The Last of Us 2 is an incredible feat in storytelling. It's proof that games can be the best medium for telling a story. There's seamless transition between the cutscenes and the gameplay, and both play their own part in telling the story. There's interesting dialogue between realistic characters, and the whole game meshes together to tell the story. From the NPC lines to the way you interact with the world, it's all really, really cool. I'm going to rate the story delivery of this game at a 5-star. I don't think that many games have ever managed to achieve this level of storytelling, and I would just hand massive props to Naughty Dog for this, and I'm super impressed. So 5 stars from me on story delivery. The gameplay. The gameplay in The Last of Us Part 2 is incredibly good. Really, really, really good. I'm super impressed with it. Naughty Dog did a fantastic job of taking the skeleton left to them by the first game and basically improving on it in every single way possible. It just feels like a more meaty, fleshed out version of the first game, so if you are a fan of the gameplay in that game, you will be a fan of the gameplay in this one. The fighting feels incredible. Quite often you'll find yourself fighting multiple enemies with just your fists or a knife, and the way that you just fluently disembowel, crack skulls, blood garglingly, brutally bash everything in around you is incredible. It just feels awesome, but also challenging. The AI is a lot smarter in this game, especially at the harder difficulties where you can really feel them work together to try to take you down. The pacing is brilliant. You will be running 100 miles an hour through a forest, dodging hundreds of enemies, and then the next minute you'll be slowly traversing the landscape and really enjoying and taking in the scenery, and that difference in pacing is a massive plus to this game. Looting and exploring is so rewarding and fun. You feel like you need to canvas and explore every inch of a place so you don't miss any of the juicy loot left for you. Stealth is a little harder than in the first game, but much the same. You still have the listening mechanic. It's just the way the enemies move and how they're placed is very thought out and challenging. Some actions are a little clunky, like jumping. For instance, your sprint to jump is usually used to jump from ledge to ledge, and more often than not you'll just belly flop onto the ledge and it looks really sort of forced and clumsy, and falling off of ledge is much the same. There's this forced sort of stumble animation that you get. It doesn't detract too much from the game, but it does bring the gameplay down to a 4.5 star in my eyes, and that's where we're going to rate it. We're going to give the gameplay for The Last of Us Part 2 4.5 stars. The graphics. The graphics in The Last of Us Part 2 are just awe-inspiringly beautiful. I don't need to say anything because they just speak for themselves. From the lighting to the scale, to facial expressions, to guitar playing, the environments, it's all just great. It looks amazing. It feels like you were playing a next generation game on this generation of consoles. I thought that this level of graphical prowess was impossible on the PlayStation 4, yet here we are. 5 stars. A perfect 10 if this was out of 10, but 5-star rating from me on the graphics. Now we get into the section where I want to talk a little bit about the options and features that we find ourselves being provided with in this game. Naughty Dog have gone above and beyond the minimum requirements that you would expect from any developer in terms of the options and settings. You've got multiple difficulty sliders, so you have a lot more control over the difficulty and experience that you have with the game. Audio you can very much customize to fit different speakers, different distances from you to your television, for different types of headphones. The color settings are, you can go into great depth. I don't understand a lot of it, but if you're colorblind, there's lots there. You can make the entire game monochromal if you really want to. Another thing that they really excelled at was the button mapping. You can remap every single button on your controller if you so wish to fit your own preferences. So because I can't say anything negative, and I don't think there is much that they could have done any better, I'm going to give the options and features a 5-star rating. In terms of level design, Naughty Dog have also done a fantastic job. They have managed to hide all loading screens to the point of where you almost don't even realise that there aren't any until you think back on it and realise that you haven't seen a single one. They have managed to completely change the feeling of a linear game, because although this is a linear story experience they have provided, you don't really notice. You feel like you are making the choices within these levels. You feel like you are exploring at your own leisure. You feel like you are going through the game in your own way. Although you aren't. You are going down a linear experience and a story that has been provided to you to be played in a very specific way. However, it doesn't feel like that, and that just speaks to fantastic level design. And that's why I will be giving the level design in The Last of Us Part 2 a 5-star. There are parts I want to talk about that are also great for this point, but they would include spoilers, so we won't touch on them just now. Just know the level design is great. 5 stars. Replayability and value for money, I'm going to sort of mix in together here. I do not believe, and I hate to say this, that there is much replayability value in The Last of Us Part 2. Once you know the story, and as this is a linear experience, there's not much to experience new with each and every playthrough. The only reasons I can see people wanting to replay this game is to maybe play through on a harder difficulty, but say you've already played through on the hardest difficulty, you don't want to go back and play on anything easier. You may forget the story and you may want to go back and remember the experience from the beginning. However, I can't see myself playing through this game any more than 2 or 3 times at a push, and the same with anyone else. So I will be giving this a 2-star in replayability. In fact, I'll bump that up to a 3-star because I believe that some people will be wanting to play this through more than just 2 or 3 times. In terms of value for money, I definitely feel like I got my value for money with how well the story was written, how good the gameplay was, and how awe-inspiring the graphics were. Everything in this review speaks to good quality game development, and for me that is worth £60. I wish it was cheaper, but I'm still going to give it a 5-star on value for money. So just to recap, we are going to go through our different scorings throughout the review. So we have story at a 4-star, story delivery at 5 stars, gameplay at 4.5 stars, graphics at 5 stars, features and options at 5 stars, level design at 5 stars, replayability at 3 stars, and value for money at 5 stars. So there you go, guys. Looking at these scores, we can obviously see that I'm going to end up with a pretty high rating for this game once we take our average in just a second. I just want to reiterate, I know not everybody is going to agree with me on this score. However, I feel I have been fair, maybe a little lenient in places, but I've tried to stay objective and unbiased in my review of this game. So I'll take the average just now. We are ending up with a 4.56 stars out of 5, and I can stand by that. I think it's fair enough, but it does hinge on enjoying the story. Some people really hate the story of this game, and that is really going to depend on whether you love this game or hate this game, is how much you like the story. I say play it, give it your own shot and make up your own mind. But yeah, thank you so much for listening. This has been my review for The Last of Us Part 2 by Naughty Dog. We came out with a score of 4.56 out of 5. Rory out.